Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Secrets of a Witch podcast with me, Sabrina Scott. On this podcast, I talk about life, love, witchcraft, magic, spirituality, animism, energy work, feminine energy, tarot, divination, astrology, the moon, and other things. We talk about so many things on this podcast, and it feels really good to be back. It feels really good to have the proper original name. That was my intention for this show because this show really is me talking about these little tidbits that I've learned along the way and sharing my secrets, so to speak. And all right, so I guess let's start off with some news. So my big news is this past week I was on Coast to Coast AM from 3 to 5 in the morning Eastern time on Thursday morning, technically, and that was super crazy and a lot of fun. It was my second time on that show. It's a super famous show, and some of the guests are like insane, kind of. But I'm not insane, I swear. It's got a lot of like paranormal, supernatural, kind of like out there counterculture, like alien content, and of course, I fit into the weirdo category, I guess. So it was it was really fun to talk about witchcraft and magic and energy, and of course, some of the questions were a little bit silly, but those are going to be a lot of the questions that your average person is going to be wondering about, someone who doesn't really know too much about witchcraft. So. It was an honor to be asked. I had such a great time, and do go listen to that somehow if you feel like it. And the second hour was really cute. We did live caller tarot readings, so it was just fun, and all the readings were really good, so that was really cool. Another thing I want to flag for everyone is that Lunar New Year is coming up, I believe on the 29th. I think it's like not this coming Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that. I'm pretty sure, but Google it if you're not sure. This is kind of my random memory of when that is. And it is going to be a really exciting year. It's the year of the snake, which is my sign, and it is apparently going to be a good year for many of us, including myself and a few other signs in particular. So I'm feeling really excited about it. I am currently shopping the Lululemon Year of the Snake collection. So if you are also a snake and you want to do Lunar New Year stuff, I would definitely check that out. So lots of really cool snake motif stuff. And I've heard that if it is your year, like it is for me, that you actually are supposed to wear a bunch of red that year to keep the luck and good vibes. And so that's what I'm kind of planning to do. I got some red stuff from the Lunar New Year drop. And I've also heard that you're supposed to wear a totally brand new outfit for the first day of the Lunar New Year celebrations, which, as far as I'm aware, are that 2 week period from that new moon up until the full moon. I'm pretty sure that is accurate. Either way, I think that sounds like a great idea, and I don't think I've ever fully planned to wear an entirely new outfit for a new moon, but I actually think it's such a great idea, and so it's something I'm going to be doing. So I've bought like a completely new outfit, like new Lululemon tights, new jacket, new bra, new underwear, new socks, new shoes. So I'm gonna really be taking this seriously. And if you're a snake like me, I would really encourage you to do the same. And it doesn't have to break the bank. It can be something cheap. It can be, something affordable. Cheap doesn't always mean it's bad quality. I think that is a misconception. Also, you can go all out if you got the budget and want to make it super, super special. So, someone to think about definitely if you feel called to work with this really cute Lunar New Year moment. I'm sure I'll speak about it a little bit more as it gets a bit closer. It's not exactly my area of expertise, but it is something that I really, really love. I lived right next door to a Chinese Buddhist temple for a decade, and it was really awesome to get to watch their 3 a.m. rituals from my living room windows. Like the entire back wall of my place was windows. And it was so cool to hear their chanting like often and get to see into their ritual space and the rituals that they would do, like just the monks, at really odd hours of the night. And I was a night owl, still am a night owl. So that was a privilege to see. And so I went next door really often for the different ceremonies, especially the Lunar New Year, and just lit some incense and prayed and got some oranges and a fortune. And I would always have the monks translate my fortune. I remember a few years they laughed at me because one of my fortunes was like, stop talking shit or something back in my early 20s. So they had a good laugh at my expense. But anyway, if you are at a place where there are Lunar New Year festivities or whatever, definitely check it out. It's a really cool time of year and just really beautiful for anyone who is interested in different types of astrology around the world and cycles. And it's just going to be really cool, and I'm really excited. So now that that kind of stuff is out of the way, what else? Oh yeah, Kickstarter stuff. All of my Kickstarter backers for the new book, Body Magic, will hear from me this week. I'll have an update for you guys. That's all I'll say about that for now, but don't worry, I have not forgot about you guys, and I'm just so grateful for everyone who has contributed to that. So thank you so, so, so much from the bottom of my heart. You guys are fucking amazing, and I cannot wait to get this book out into the world for you guys. So yeah, I'm just excited about that. All right, so let's get into today's topic now with not all of that housekeeping is kind of done. So today I wanted to talk about consistency and emotional and relational consistency. And there's a lot I want to say about this. I'm going to be talking about this in the context of romantic relationships. And I've talked about it before on this podcast for sure, because there's almost 200 episodes now, which seems insane. All of the episodes are now on my blog too, my website. So that was a long time coming. So I'm really glad that that's all up there. But anyway, back to the topic, consistency in relationships. So my little disclaimer at first is like, obviously, sometimes we're going to have our off days. Sometimes we're going to be sick. Sometimes, like, something crazy is going to happen. Our parent will have a health emergency, or something insane will happen at work, or there's an emergency with our sibling or our pets or something, or we're just feeling out of sorts. So, obviously, there's a ton of different reasons why we might be not fully ourselves, or a little bit volatile, or a little bit, fill in the blank. I'm I wanted to disclaimer this and say that it is important to give each other grace and compassion and understanding. And this episode is not necessarily about perfectionism and being super OCD about needing to be exactly perfect all of the time. That's impossible. I don't really believe in the word perfection, to be honest with you, even though I'm a Virgo rising. I know that might sound a bit surprising, but the word perfect just kind of isn't something I strive for. It's not really in my vocabulary when I assess other people. I'm always about growth and improvement and reflection and all of that and striving. I think that's super important, self-reflection and self-improvement and growth and all of that. But like perfection doesn't exist. It's a stupid concept. So let's just throw that out the window. So I just want to be clear that what I'm talking about in this episode is not perfectionism, because a lot of shame often is something that people feel when they're not perfect, and that doesn't really have a place in the conversation for me. I'm not interested in that. What I am interested in talking about today is the importance of at least having a kind of baseline of emotional predictability, emotional reliability, and emotional consistency in our relationships. So, what do I mean by this? So, many of you guys will probably notice that some folks do run a little bit hot and cold. They are really lovey-dovey, they might love bomb, and then they might completely pull away or be really cold or actually be kind of fucking rude. And this back and forth, like hot and cold behavior, it is something to pay attention to if you're someone who is single and mingling. And also if you're in a relationship where you feel on edge all the time, like you don't know what's around the corner, you actually might have become desensitized to how unusual and unhealthy that kind of behavior is. It might just have become so normalized to you. So whether you're in a relationship or you're single or you're in a situationship or whatever, I just felt called to talk about this topic because it is really important. It is something that can creep up on you super slowly in your relationship or your dating process, and you might not even realize that it's happening until it's so entrenched and it just becomes your new normal. And you might really care about someone and really love someone, so you might be willing to just like let it go or write it off or really ignore the impact that this hot and cold behavior and consistency has on you. So let's talk about it. Let's break it down a little bit. And of course, my little disclaimer as well, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not any of that. This is just my observations. And so, as always, I do encourage you guys to read more books and educate yourself additionally on these topics by people who do have some of those credentials. So, more knowledge is always good, right? But anywho, now that I've gotten my bazillion disclaimers out of the way, so when someone is inconsistent, oftentimes we can have different types of reactions to this, right? If we are emotionally secure and stable, we'll probably ask what's going on, and we might be like, hey, what's the deal? But if it is a constant thing that keeps happening and the person's hot and cold, like consistently ongoing, someone who is in a stable, healthy way of engaging with the world and with themselves will at some point have enough of this and just completely become disinterested. Because that hot and cold thing, if that person who is doing that, if they don't work on it and if they don't acknowledge it's a problem, if they're not willing to acknowledge it, then it's just clearly not going to go anywhere. So that's how, let's say, someone who is very secure might react. Someone who is very anxious is probably going to react and be like, want to get closer and get closer and get closer and to close that gap. And if whenever that person, let's say, is pulling away or being cold or whatever. So someone who is more anxiously oriented is going to be like, oh my God, what happened? Can we be cool? Can we fix this problem? Like, why are you upset? Did I do something? Blah, blah, blah. And so whenever we've got an abandonment wound, we are more likely to react in that kind of anxious way. We'll think it's our fault. We're going to try to solve the problem. We're going to try to people please. We're going to try to fix it, right? And that actually, while it's kind of coming from a good place and it has a good intention, oftentimes that doesn't really solve the dynamic, right? And then there's going to be people who react to it where they just are completely avoidant of the avoidance. So I find that that dynamic doesn't tend to happen. Usually there is more of like a dance when these things occur. So I don't really think that speaking on the avoidant reaction to the hot cold is what we're really going to be talking about today, because I don't really see that happening too much. I'm sure it does happen. But what I'm mostly interested in is talking about this behavior of inconsistency. And this is, I don't even really want to talk about attachment theory per se in this episode. I mostly just want to talk about, like, okay, this behavior. And I think it can be really tempting to fall into this trap of analyzing the behavior. Okay, why is this person doing this? Why are they being so hot and cold? Like, how can I understand it? What triggered them? How can I avoid triggering them to do that in the future? Blah, blah, blah. And all of that, again, might be coming from this really compassionate place and like care and consideration. But at the same time, that is often not our work to be doing. Ideally, we're all adults. I'm an adult, you're an adult. Everyone listening to this, I'm assuming like 99% of you guys are adults. I'm sure there's maybe the occasional teenager listening to this. I don't know. If you are, like, high five to you for listening to self-development podcasts at that age. I think that's really cool. But what I really want to talk about is how important it is to just observe the behavior. and notice it for what it is and just decide, does this work for you? Does this not work for you? And what are your own boundaries around consistency or inconsistency in somebody, especially in a romantic relationship? Because however many reasons this person has for behaving this way, however much trauma they have, however much this, however much that, does it really matter? And you might decide that it does matter to you and you're seeing progress and you do want to work through it with them. And I think that's a totally valid choice. If you are seeing progress and you're feeling good about it and you're feeling heard and whatever, and it's not throwing your life completely off the rails. And that is something that can often happen when, let's say, our partner is being incredibly inconsistent emotionally, whether this is someone we're in a situationship with, we're just dating, or we are in a serious relationship or married. Someone who is hot and cold, someone who is really loving one day and then just completely cold and turned off the next day for no real reason. That type of back and forth is so extreme. It often is going to give the other partner some kind of emotional whiplash, and it creates anxiety. It creates tension. It creates like a full body anxiety, basically. So you might notice your digestion is weird. You might notice this tense feeling in your chest. You might notice you got a headache. It actually can have a very negative physical health impact on the partner. And this isn't made up. This is totally true. I'm sure everyone who has been through a really nasty breakup probably felt really sick right after that, right? It's because our mind and our body is connected, and our emotions, especially our strong emotions, especially emotions that are unsure or we're kind of ambiguous, we don't really know where we stand with someone. All of that unsureness is going to create, at least in my experience, the worst physical impact on the body. So we either can kind of make a decision on if that works for us or not with this person. We can decide, okay, am I being excessively triggered by this person's ambiguity? Is this person's ambiguity appropriate for the stage of relationship that we're in? Because early dating, it does make sense to actually not fully know where something is or what the future of something might be. If there's a really big fight in a marriage, let's say down the line about something very intense, it perhaps does make sense to have that situation create an ambiguity in the marriage. That makes sense. And so as we're experiencing this, as we're thinking through this topic, I think it is really crucial to be able to kind of parse that out and be like, all right, is this a situation where ambiguity and uncertainty makes sense? Or is this a situation where there's ambiguity and uncertainty kind of for no real reason, but it's not constant? It's like hot and cold. It's like one day everything is amazing and great, and then randomly for no reason the next day everything is like completely a question mark. And there is a difference between those two things, and I hope that I've explained it well for y'all, because I do think these are completely two different things. And when we are in a state of ambiguity for too long, and the ambiguity does not involve communications, I do think it is possible to be like, okay, I'm feeling a bit ambiguous about this. Let's talk it through. Or, hey, I just need some space. I'll touch in with you at this time. I think it is reasonable to kind of communicate through ambiguity. I think there's ways to communicate through ambiguity and uncertainty that are kind and loving and that maintain connection throughout the ambiguity. And I also think there's ways that people can be so hot and cold in this severe way that is really unkind and not loving, that can create a disorganized attachment where there wasn't disorganized attachment before. And I know this is not an episode about disorganized attachment or attachment in general, but what's really interesting about disorganized attachment is it is the same attachment style that we get when we are in abusive relationships, whether that's with our parents or with a lover or a romantic partner or with a friend or in a cult even. And so disorganized attachment, there's a really, really great book by this woman called Alexandra Stain or Stein. Actually, I'm not too sure how to pronounce her name, but it's called Terror, Love, and Brainwashing. Excellent book. Highly recommend. And so, as you can tell by the title of the book, Terror, Love, and Brainwashing, the thing that really distinguishes disorganized attachment is this mix of love and fear, love and anxiety, love and adoration and care with this kind of like whiplash feeling that there's something wrong that is going on. And so we get this attachment style when there is this like extreme back and forth, uh this positivity in the connection, and then it's a really negative, and it just goes kind of back and forth, right? And I'm oversimplifying things right now just for the sake of explaining it to you guys. But this is kind of my main red flag when we're thinking about inconsistent people and inconsistent communicators and people who are inconsistent in their love and affection and care, especially in a close, intimate relationship. And again, my heart goes out to everyone who has trauma. Obviously, you guys know that. As someone who has experienced extreme trauma myself, I totally get it. At the same time, like our own trauma and our own bad experiences is no excuse to treat other people like crap or to not be considerate of other people's emotions. And I know sometimes it's a capacity thing. I know for sure back when I was just raped back like more than 10 years ago, I for sure was like n not having the capacity to be the most kind person and the most appreciative person for sure. I was just like so in it. So I totally get it. It's a thing. Like we all are going to be on our own different journey and different stages of our healing process, and that is going to influence how consistent and kind and loving and communicative we're going to be able to be in our relationships. At the same time, like I said earlier, it's something for all of us to really think about of like what are our own boundaries with this? How much grace are we willing to give? And does that person also give us grace? Are we also held in our imperfections and our like our icky moments or our moments where we maybe are not as like kind and squishy as we might want to be or hope to be most of the time? And consistency in a relationship breeds trust and closeness and intimacy, and it also creates a space of safety. It is really hard to feel emotionally safe with somebody if they are incredibly inconsistent in how they show up, and if they don't do what they say they're going to do, if they don't follow through on what they say they're going to be doing. And so that will often create this anxiety, this disorganized attachment, and a sense of unsafety. And so for me, part of the reason I'm bringing this up is because we can really only feel safe with a partner in a genuine, heartfelt, full body, soul merging kind of way when there is a kind of predictability and trust and certainty about what we can expect from someone in terms of kindness, in terms of care, in terms of communication, in terms of transparency, in terms of presence. And one example I often give around this is there was someone I was with for quite a long time, many, many years ago. And when I was in that relationship, I was definitely not at my best. I was for sure coming off the trauma of childhood, and I was a bit insane. And throughout that entire 6 year relationship, even when I was an idiot and did stupid shit, this person never swore at me, never insulted me, never was mean to me in any way, even when I probably would have deserved it. And this person was not perfect, like he had his flaws, definitely not a perfect person for sure. Um, but was consistent in that way, was reliably kind, was reliably not a dick, you know? And I do think that is an important thing. And so whenever I hear people say, like, oh, yeah, but, you know, if I was doing ABC, of course the person yelled at me, or of course the person did blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, I don't think that that always has to be the case. I think another way of living is absolutely possible because I've experienced what that's like. And I know there are people out there who are like that. Like I've met them, like I've dated them. They exist in the world. And so it's not unreasonable to expect grace and kindness and communication and openness. I don't think that's an unreasonable thing. And it's just something to think about for all my people, as we're thinking about love and relationships, and Valentine's Day is coming up next month. And so I think a lot of us are going to be thinking about love and relationships and dating and romance and connectedness and just any kind of people coming together. And love is one of the most beautiful things that we can experience. I really believe that. And when it works, it honestly is one of the most beautiful like things ever. Um, but I do think it is important to not allow our emotions to get in the way of noticing some of these things, right? Like we might really care about someone, we might really love somebody, but are they consistent? Like, are they treating us in the way that we deserve to be treated? Or are they not for whatever series of reasons? And, we can all have reasons for being immature or rude. There's always a reason. But if we're adults, we get to decide if we respond with mindfulness or if we react like a knee-jerk reaction and just like clap back. We get to decide who we want to be, and if we want to be ruled and controlled by our triggers and the worst parts of us, our worst impulses, our worst fears, our worst paranoias, and our worst projections on other people. And so I really do feel like what you see with people is generally what you get. I think potential is really cute in theory, but all we really have is today at a certain point. And that's mostly what I want to say about this. I think just something to notice, you guys, right? Like in all of your connections. I know I'm mostly talking about dating here, but I think this is also really relevant for friendship and any kind of interpersonal connection. Like it really is important, right? And I do believe that each and every one of us deserves to be consistently treated with kindness and love and care and tenderness. And yeah, sometimes we might be mad at each other. Sometimes there's going to be a reason for that. Sometimes there's not going to be a reason for that. And I still believe that we all deserve to treat each other with kindness and respect. And I do believe that we all should be holding ourselves to that standard as well. And I don't think it's too much to ask to expect some kind of emotional consistency from the people in our lives. So I want to end with that. I want to end with that, you guys. That's my thoughts on this topic. And I'm sending you guys all really good vibes. I hope everyone's doing amazing. I do still have a few spots for year ahead readings. Those are 2 hours. All you have to do is book a 2-hour reading on my website, sabrinamscott.com/readings. And I did revamp the podcast section on the website, so now it just is all the fucking podcasts. So you can go check it out. And there will be embedded links to pretty much everywhere that it is. The three main ones, of course, are YouTube, Spotify, and what's the other one? Apple Podcasts. So go back and listen to some old episodes because there's some gems in there, you guys. As I was re-adding everything to my website, I was like, wow, I can't believe I talked about this. That was a really smart episode. So go check it out, go scroll through. There's probably going to be at least one or two that strikes your curiosity. So go check it out. And of course, they're all on YouTube. And if you guys don't know, my Instagram is Sabrina M. Scott. And if you are in Canada, I'm pretty sure there is no tax on books right now, unless I am making that up. I'm pretty sure that's true. Hopefully that's not over yet. So if you do want to go grab any of my books on Amazon, definitely go do that. I've got three books out right now and four journals. Two for tarot, one for magic, and one for oracle cards. So go check that out. And I will be doing a live tarot unboxing and walkthrough sometime this coming week. I got a really, really exciting deck in the mail, and I'm so, so, so excited to show you guys. It looks so fucking cool. So that's it. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna let you guys go, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day, morning, evening, etc. Bye.